Welcome to Slash Forward. In this episode, we're gonna get jiggy with it by watching the 1999 film Idle Hands. Let's get to it. We open with a classic and undeniably 90s credit sequence. Then onto a nice suburban home where Gary and Norma are getting ready for bed. When they flip the lights off, it reveals a foreboding message scrawled on the ceiling. They assume it to be a silly prank by their slacker son Anton, until they hear a strange noise downstairs. Gary goes to investigate while Norma tries to keep herself occupied to calm her anxiety. When this fails, she goes to check on Gary, finding herself face down and nearly kissing a bloody surprise. When she retreats to the safety of her bedroom, we finally get payoff for that prank from earlier. The next morning, Anton wakes up and is surprised to find no one feeding him. But not one to let the day go to waste, he gets comfortable and treats his asthma. When he runs out of his medicine, he visits his friends Mick and Penub to see if they're holding, but they're not. As they talk, we learn there's been news of a killer wreaking havoc on the town, and Anton also gets an opportunity to zoom those peepers in on his crush, Molly. He gets a lucky in when she drops her lyric notebook. She's grateful he returns it, but he's too shy to leverage the opportunity. Meanwhile, in Beaver, Utah, we meet Debbie LeCure, master of disguise and tracker of evil entities. In this case, she's been attracted to this town by a string of murders, but finds her prime suspect to have a withered hand, indicating she's too late. Later on at home, under the dangerous influence of marijuana withdrawal, Anton tries to get his fix by combining nutmeg and oregano, and it seems to work. I don't know how to drugs. While satiating his munchies, he manages to get distracted sufficiently enough to consume tainted mayonnaise, and in the aftermath of this discovery, finds his parents. Then his friends show up, and Seth Green does this. I don't think he understands what these movements imply. When they realize what they've walked into, they immediately suspect the town's serial killer, and when they start gathering clues, the evidence doesn't speak in Anton's favor, although he has no memory of committing these dark deeds. The truth comes out when Mick attempts to call 911 and gets glassed to an extreme degree. Penub then tries to leave, and we see the culprit is Anton's hand, working toward its own agenda. He tries to undermine its intent by holding it back and giving Penub escape advice, but it ultimately gets the upper hand. As he tries to process this, it attempts to take in some hand-centered content, but gets frustrated and flings Anton's cat out the window. This brings Anton across the street to Molly's house, where his quirky behavior intrigues her, almost prompting Jessica Alba to begin acting. They retire to her boudoir, where she clearly demonstrates this is an essentially done deal.
I'm impressed.
You need to raise your standards, young lady. They awkwardly work their way through the makeout sesh until their teen passions wane, and Molly's parents come home. They set a second date for the school's Halloween dance, and Anton jumps out the window. Back at his house, Anton takes a moment to bury his friends and family. As he says his final farewells, he hears a strange noise that accompanies Mick and Penub returning from the grave. Then they wang him with a shovel. He wakes up, assuming the most recent events to have been a bad dream, resulting from an excess of mayonnaise consumption. However, when he goes downstairs, he finds his friends still chillin'. Turns out, the light was down a pretty long hallway, so they just opted not to go to it. Then deciding the only way to get to the bottom of this possession is to learn more about Satan, Anton heads off to find his heavy metal neighbor, Randy, who makes the suggestion that he keeps his hands busy. This is what he's doing when he gets peeped on by a couple of officers checking on a noise complaint. They survey the scene inside and, recognizing they found the killer, bust in on them. Thinking of the public safety, Anton tries to go willingly, but he can't get them to cuff him quickly enough and his hand takes over. Finally hitting the last straw, he decides to take matters into his own hand, making several attempts before getting the job done. Mick helps close off his blood vessels, and then he and Penub go to get first aid supplies. At this point, Anton discovers the hand doesn't actually need him to survive. Anton manages to wrestle it into the microwave right as Molly shows up for their date. They go out the front as the boys arrive from the rear. Having fixed Penub's head situation and looking to enjoy some gas station burritos, they open the microwave and accidentally let out the hand. Anton convinces Molly that he's not quite ready for the Halloween dance, so she should go ahead without him. Then he circles back to attend to the matter of his hand. He quickly learns that it escaped and he goes to look for it. Meanwhile, LeCure has arrived in town, attracted by the recent news of a highly active local killer. She happens upon Randy, and after telling him about her hand-hunting mission, he tells her about his neighbor who's suffering from a situation remarkably similar to what she's describing. Anton finds evidence the hand is pursuing Molly, and gets Mick and Penub to help him locate her at the dance. Randy and LeCure arrive just in time to follow them. At the dance, we witness the teens engaging in some sort of rhythmic bodily gyrations, but it's not totally clear what this is supposed to be. The boys search the floor for Molly while Anton pursues his ex-girlfriend down the halls. He eventually runs across LeCure, who offers him a remedy in the form of a ceremonial stabbing. However, Anton is able to quickly show her that he's no longer a host to evil. They then try to warn everyone to leave and are laughed at, until the hand makes an appearance and wreaks havoc. The girls take the safe route, ducking into the ducts, but they quickly reach a dead end. With some quick thinking, Molly is able to save herself, but Tanya doesn't come through quickly enough and is plastered all over the inside of the vent. Unfortunately, despite these efforts, Molly is almost immediately captured. Then the boys meet up and follow the sound of Molly's screams. They find her being raised upward, in the direction of the roof, and they have a hard time getting the hand to release its grip. They can only slow it down with the power of drugs, giving LaCure enough time to show up and spear it. Then, overcome with the lust of success, Molly and Anton make out under the lift, and Penub accidentally hits the lever, crushing him. We find out that the boys have finally opted to move along to heaven now, but Anton holds back to kick it with Molly, which is radical. And that was Idle Hands, a cautionary tale, possibly, either for or against drugs, or for or against Satanism. I'm not really sure. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.